All right, everyone, welcome back to the DGS Presents YouTube channel where we play with dead things and talk about it. In this episode, we kick off a new feature, the Monster of the Month, which will be an ongoing series where we take a peek at the creatures found within tomes and folios of old RPG games. So for this week, picture this. Your adventuring party has been dispatched to investigate a spectral disturbance in an abandoned chateau at the outskirts of town. Inside the moldering and cobweb-filled interior dwells a restless spirit. What could it be? It's a ghost. A truly terrible creature from Dungeons and Dragons, something that has vexed even the greatest of adventurers, and it comes in many different incarnations based on the version of Dungeons and Dragons that you're using. But it's one of my favorite monsters from the books, and I wanted to take a closer look at them and kind of discuss how you can integrate them into a game and play them pretty effectively and dangerously, because I think they're an underappreciated creature. So with that, let's start by going all the way back to basically basic D&D. And in this case, I'm going to pull it up from the rules cyclopedia. And let's take a look at the haunt, which is basically a classification of different types of spectral entities. And the one we're interested in here is the actual ghost, which is in the middle up there. The ghost has an armor class of -2. It's 14 hit dice. Standard move of 90. It has some attacks, which I will talk about, special attacks. And it can be, which I'll touch on a little more in a little bit, it can be of any alignment, actually, which is different than the later versions of D&D where ghosts typically are only chaotic or chaotic evil, right? So the haunt has certain special defenses and attacks that it can initiate. And then, of course, the ghost takes it one step further. It's got its own attacks. So if we look at the ghost in the rules cyclopedia, it says that it requires +2 or better weapon to hit. So that's pretty tough. And it is generally ethereal. It exists in the ethereal plane, and it can semi-materialize into our plane in order to launch, let's say, an aging attack. The ghost is immune to all spells save those which affect evil, which makes it very difficult to deal with from a spellcasting standpoint. Now, the ghost can also it can initiate a gazed attack up to 60 feet, and your party has to, or your PC has to, save versus spells or be paralyzed for 1d4 rounds. Now, the other thing that a haunt can do, and a ghost is in that classification of haunt, which is really a horrible thing, is this thing called an ectoplasmic net. When the ghost first appears, right, as an entity, it starts to ooze this ectoplasmic net out from itself for 3 rounds. It kind of envelops the ghost in these kind of tendrils and these gossamer, arms kind of reaching out from the thing. And at round 4, this ectoplasmic net basically becomes active. And anybody who touches it, comes in contact with it, has to save versus spell or be dragged into the ethereal plane. And that typically means death, unless you have some way of surviving within the ethereal plane, if you have like oil of etherealness or something like that. But typically, a PC is not going to have anything that will give them the ability to survive in some extraplanar environment. So if the ghost, basically gets you into this ectoplasmic net, you're in big trouble. Another thing the ghost can do, which is all the ghosts that we look at can do, is aging. Each time the ghost, if it materializes and it hits you, it ages you 1d4 times 10 years. And in basic D&D, each 10 years subtracts a point of constitution. And once the PC reaches zero con, he is dead forever. Cannot be raised. So that's bad. But one of the more fearsome attacks that the ghost has is this thing called Magic Jar. Now, the Magic Jar is the spell allows a spellcaster to basically possess a person. And he does this through this method, or she does this through a method where they transfer their life essence into some sort of object, like a gem, and then they basically launch kind of this magical attack from that object at the target. Now, in the case of the haunt here, the ghost, they typically have some sort of a gem or object on them which contains the essence. It might be like a necklace that the apparition might wear, and they can attack PCs, humans, within 120 feet. Now, you have to save versus spell, right? Your character has to save versus spell or be taken over, basically possessed by the ghost. And once they're possessed, this continues indefinitely until Dispel Evil is cast. So that's very bad. So, how would you play this as a DM? So, as we're going to see with these ghosts, the way that I like to play them is I like to haunt the party. The ghost can use its gaze attack to paralyze people. It can kind of come in and out of the ethereal plane. It kind of disappear and reappear from the shadows. At any given point, they're very difficult to see, to detect, and they have these horrible attacks where they can age you or possess you. And typically, as we're going to see with these other ghosts, if they fail to magic jar someone, they will be likely to attack with the aging attack to try to take you out that way. Now, in basic D&D, unlike the other versions, ghosts can be of any alignment, right? You can have a lawful ghost who is basically kind of looks like a transparent, human being, similar to the way that they did in life, kind of like that picture I had up earlier. Something like this, right? Chaotic ghosts, right, are they look more like their traditional kind of burial shroud, and they're a little less human looking. They're more kind of like spectral looking. And then you can have these neutral ghosts who really, like the lawful ghosts, they're looking for something. They're looking for the party to find something or to solve a mystery of their murder and their death, and basically so their soul can rest. And of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to enjoy it or you're going to be motivated to help them right away. You're probably just going to be terrified of the ghost. So it's going to take some time to figure out what exactly they want or need. And as a DM, you can kind of play this up as part of the plot line of the story, right? You can have some ghost that appears and the party's terrified, but then they discover that there's some sort of murder mystery they have to solve, or some sort of object they find or have to find. It's some mystery that needs to be resolved for the ghost to finally rest. Now, the ghost also, of course, appears in advanced Dungeons and Dragons or first edition Dungeons and Dragons, and there are some fundamental differences between this ghost and the one that's found in basic D&D, although they're somewhat similar. In this case, the ghost can only be hit by silver or magical weapons, and they can also go ethereal. They are hit dice 10 in layer 25% of the time. They'll be in their layer. And again, their aging attack, same thing, ages you 10 to 40 years. Now, this ghost also can launch a gaze attack, but it's a little bit different, I noticed, in the AD&D rules in the Monster Manual, in the sense that it simply says anyone seeing the ghost must save versus spell or age 10 years and flee in panic for 2 to 12 turns, not rounds, actual turns. So if you so much as get a vision of this thing, you could be terrified and simply run out of the haunted castle for 2 to 12 turns, right? In both cases, with the basic D&D and with the AD&D Ghost, clerics above 6th level are immune to this particular effect, right? This gaze attack. Now, this ghost can also do a magic jar effect. In this case, it's within 60 feet, but there is a there's a little bit of a catch here with the magic jar spell in the player's handbook. There is a kind of a thing we have to look at for the saving throw, and you can get a bonus or a penalty to your saving throw versus spells against the magic jar attack based on your intelligence and your wisdom in comparison to the intelligence and wisdom of the spellcaster who's trying to attack you, basically trying to possess you, right? So, for instance, if you have a 9 points or more difference in your favor against the spellcaster, right, you would get a +4 bonus to your save against this magic jar attack. But likewise, let's say you are 5 to 8 points under, then you would get a -1 to your save. So it's kind of a battle of wills. It's a mind against mind. Someone's trying to possess you, seize control of you, and really it comes down to your intelligence and wisdom. Now, one thing that DM Greg pointed out to me today is he said, remember that a ghost is technically not a human spellcaster, but a creature. So in this case, we would only look at intelligence. We would compare the intelligence and use the same table that we find in the player's handbook to make the determination for either the bonus or the penalty that you would get. Now, depending on your, again, your intelligence in this case, you may be able to make a save every round after being possessed to shake off the influence of the ghost. But if you have, if the difference is very large, let's say it says, if, let's say it's, what does it say here? If the difference is a 13, it could be a saving throw each week, right? Or if the difference is between 9 and 12, it's a saving throw each day. So if the difference in the intelligence points is between 9 and 12 and your detriment, right, you would only get a saving throw each day. So the ghost would really control you for an entire day, which would be very, very bad. Now, like the other ghost, as I said before, this ghost can age you. And let me see, I think I have the, here it is. Let me push this up real quick. This is the aging table from the DM's guide, the Dungeon Master's guide. So if we look at this table, depending how much we get aged, we could go from, let's say, middle-aged to old. And when we go to old, we subtract 2 points of strength, 2 points of dexterity, and 1 point of constitution, although we add 1 point of wisdom. So we begin taking attribute penalties after we get hit by the ghost and we start to age. And ultimately, we could reach a state where we're venerable, where we subtract an additional point of strength, an additional point of dexterity and constitution, and then you might add a little intelligence and wisdom. So you're physically being drained by the ghost. And like I said before, if you are brought all the way to past your natural lifespan as a human or even as an elf or dwarf or whatever, you're gone forever. You're slain. So let me go back to the ghost here. So that is the AD&D version of the ghost. Now, there is also a ghost in 2nd edition. Let me see, I think I have him right here. He is virtually identical to the one in the previous monster manual. So this ghost is from the Monsters manual, right? For 2nd edition. Very similar things: magic jar, aging, etherealness, the same types of powers and protections. Now, how, aside from haunting the players, let's say if we look at the haunt again, what's a great way to really terrorize the players? Well, I liked to paralyze a player with the gaze attack, and then have the ghost move in after the ectoplasmic net is formed, and I have then the ghost basically envelop the character and pull them into the ethereal plane. So that's kind of a terrifying thing that can happen. I also assume that the ghost, which in all cases is highly intelligent, understands which PC they're going to be able to dominate easily and possess easily. So the ghost is not necessarily going to go after the aged wizard who's very intelligent and very wise. Chances are he or she is going to go after, the brawny fighter, really not that smart and not that wise. It's going to be pretty easy to take over. And once they do, they can control the body and they can launch attacks against the rest of the party. Now, some other things with the ghosts. There was the Ravenloft Realms of Terror box set that came out. I believe it was 1990 by TSR. That had some expanded ghost rules. And I think there's like degrees of ghost, like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit off the topic of what we're discussing here, because when we get into Ravenloft proper, we'll start actually talking about that. But there are some great modules in that series, especially with Ravenloft, the ones that came out in the 90s. For instance, like this one, Bleak House, The Death of Rudolf van Richten, which have lots of ghosts in them, right? This module not only has like these powerful ghosts, it has these day spirits that can actually walk around during the day. There is let's see here, where is she? There's a powerful ghost who's the main antagonist here. Madame Radanovich, I guess is her name, Radanovich. So she's the Lord of Bleak House, right? She's a 4th magnitude ghost, and she has all these special powers. So if you're looking for a good module to play that features ghosts, Bleak House is a good one. Otherwise, just create your own adventure with ghosts and use them to their full ability, right? Don't simply have the ghost come out, try to magic jar somebody, and when that fails, fight using melee attacks trying to age somebody until it dies. I prefer to have this thing, come in and out, attack, retreat, disappear for an hour, disappear for a day, come back, attack again, and use its full powers to basically haunt and terrorize the party. So that is the monster of the month. So that is the ghost. And once we get into Ravenloft, we'll talk more about the enhancements that particular box set and that rule set makes to ghosts. So, okay, everyone, I will see you next time. If you like this content, you find this stuff fun, please like and subscribe. It helps us out, and I will see you next time.